Hello learners, and welcome to the next class on tribes of Manipur. This is block 3 from unit 1 and the course code is BSW044. I am Professor Nembiakkim, your course coordinator. Now before we continue with the class, let us have a small recap about what we have done in the previous session. Manipur, it is one of the 8 states that comprise the northeastern states of India. Bordering the state is Myanmar, which is now known as Burma, in the east, Nagaland in the north, Assam in the west, and Mizoram in the southwest. Imphal is the capital of the state. There are other ethnic groups that constitute the people of the state. They are the Meiteis, the Chin Zomi Kuki, and the Nagas. The Meiteis are the majority community in Manipur, comprising almost 58% of the total population, while the Nagas and Chin Zomi Kuki tribes make up to about 36%. We also mentioned in the previous class that there are 33 tribes that is recognized in Manipur. Now the total population is approximately 28 lakhs according to 2011 census. Of this, we have also informed you that approximately 58.9% represent the valley population, that is the Meiteis, who are not a tribe, and 41.1% represents the population of the hills. Of the total scheduled tribes in Manipur, Thado is the largest scheduled tribe population as per the 2011 census, and apart from the Thado, there are other major tribes with high population, and amongst them are the Tangkhul, the Kabui, the Paite, Mar, Kachanaga, and the Vaipe. And in the previous class, we talked about all these specific tribes that we have mentioned, and we have learned a little bit about them. And we also talked about the tribal customs, where we define what is meant by customs. And now moving forward, let us talk more about the tribals of Manipur. Let us touch upon the administrative structure. Among the Kuki Chin Mizo, that is whom we have mentioned as a tribal group in Manipur. So these tribal groups traditionally, the office of the chieftainship was in the hands of the village chief, which is hereditary in nature, who had almost complete control in terms of the land holdings and administration of justice under his jurisdiction. Now this chief is assisted by a council of elders who were representatives of all clans, and these representatives were also known as Upa, that is a UPA Upa. It was the chief who would own the land on behalf of the village or community and distribute it as per his will in consultation with the council of elders. In recent times, however, there have been a gradual change in this administrative structure in the election of elders, not necessarily representing all the clans. The chief of the village is the ex officio chairman, and all decisions are taken through consultation with the duly elected members. So here, election is the most important aspect, and the members, the elected members, have a lot of say in all these matters. This has brought about some kind of democratization among the tribes and more transparency in the functioning of the village activities. The Nagas, on the other hand, are fully administered by a village council, duly elected or represented by the elderly representatives of the various clans in the village. The village council performs both administrative and judicial functions. It is usually the eldest male of the clan who is inducted into the village council. However, traces of a monarchical system of chieftainship are not altogether absent among the Naga tribes. The Maram Nagas still have a queen who performs all the customary laws and is highly revered by the people. The Maus and Zelarongs also exhibit these tendencies, with the first settlers of the village becoming automatically the head or the chief, and the subsequent chieftainship being taken over by the eldest son of the family, and that is why probably it is called monarchical or hereditary. It may be noted here, however, that the village chief is only a nominal head in the village, while the administrative powers lies in the hands of the village council, comprising of the Kulakpa, that is known as the chairman, elected by the villagers. In this manner, most Naga tribes in Manipur do have chiefs. It is apparent in both cases that tenets of democracy have begun to crystallize despite the presence of chiefs whose traditional role was enormous but now have been rendered to that of a decision maker. Now, among these tribal groups, there are the chief, which is the most important aspect, and the chief takes a lot of decision. It is not only among the Naga group but also among the other group that we have discussed, be it the Thado, the Tangkhul, the Mar, the Vaipe, the Paite. The chief or the Upa is the one who takes the decisions. The land ownership patterns, as briefly mentioned, shows that there are certain differences among the tribes of Manipur. For the Chin, Kuki, Mizo group of tribes, the village chief is the authority over the village land. He is the village chief as well as the owner of the village land who receives changseo, which is a measure of paddy offered to the chief annually for the individual right of cultivation on the village land, and a one-day free labor of one person of every household per annum called kotha. However, a tribute is paid to the village chief by any villager whenever an animal is killed in hunting, and even when a villager sells animals like buffalo, cow and so on. Now, this is however changing with the inclusion of elected members in decision making. On the positive sides, although this new form of administration is far more constructive, often tensions arise when there is a conflict of interest between the chief and the other elder members of the council. The Naga tribes, on the other hand, practice the system of community land ownership. Ownership rights of land can be given to any person or clan with the explicit knowledge and understanding that it is going to be used by that particular person or clan for farming, and that is what we know as community land ownership. Now, not only for farming but for cultivation, habitation or acquiring forest land resources. Now, the Nagas are not allowed to sell land on an individual basis as it is a community land ownership. Let us now move forward and understand the clan system and inheritance among the tribals. One important aspect of the tribal society in Manipur is the importance given to clans. Clans are made up of a number of families who trace their ancestry to a particular person or a family. A clan. What is a clan? A clan is a group of people united by actual or perceived kingships and descent. Even if actual lineage patterns are unknown, clan members may nonetheless recognize a founding member of epical ancestor. This is what a clan is all about. Now, the importance given to clans among the tribal groups in Manipur is because all decisions bearing upon the village in which they live or the clan itself is carried out through a collective decision by the elders of the various clans. Now, this clan system is prevalent both in the Kuki, Chin, Mizo and the Naga tribes. This is identified by a common surname. Within the clan, there is also what is called sub-clans and sub-sub-clans. Sub-clans have mushroomed in recent times due to migration from the mother village and the formation of new villages. Now, these sub-clans are actually a group of close-knit families which unite due to certain factors such as land or family inheritance. In some tribes, however, these sub-clans become new clans after some customary laws are performed. Now, among the tribal groups within the Chin, Kuki, Mizo group, we have a lot of tribal customs and traditions for every big thing and small thing. So now in some tribes, however, these sub-clans become new clans after some customary laws are performed. So here also the practice is prevalent. The new clans become a completely new entity with all the powers of a clan. Sub-clans are usually affiliated to the mother clan and any decision is taken collectively with representatives from the mother clan. Now, in the tribal society in Manipur especially, the family inheritance mostly goes to the eldest son of the family except for some tribes within the Kuki, Chin, Mizo groups like the Sukte and Mar, where the youngest son in the family enjoy all the benefits of the family inheritance. It may be noted here that despite by tradition, the eldest surviving son inherits all the ancestral property. By convention, the ancestral house is given to the youngest son with an understanding that he will take care of the parents as long as they live. In both the tribal society mentioned above, the right of inheritance to women is very limited or almost nil, except in certain cases where inheritance right may be gifted to anyone who took care of the parents during their old age, whether it is a son or a daughter. Now, this practice is different from the tribal groups among the Khasis, where the ancestral or the inheritance is matrilineal, that is, it passed from the mother to the daughter. Now, going ahead, let us understand about the crime and administration of justice. The tribes of Manipur still practice the traditional way of administering justice for crimes committed within the community. In both the Chin, Kuki, Mizo and Naga tribal groups, crimes are brought to the notice of the village authorities, and according to their severity, justice is administered. The Naga tribes administer justice through the offices of the village court or village council, constituted by the elderly male representatives of all clans, including the chief of the village. In the same way, among the Kuki, Chin, Mizo group of tribes, it is the chief along with his group of elected representatives, and I say elected here because it is the most important thing, who arbitrate and dispense out justice. When it is difficult to determine the guilt, the tribal people leave the matter to the divine power by making the accused or all the accused perform certain oaths and genas. Now, notwithstanding the differences in the seriousness of the crime among different tribes, punishment in the form of fine is the most common form of punishment. The fine may be in the form of cash or kind, such as a cow, a bull, or a certain amount of paddy. Capital punishment is not practiced in the tribal society. The most serious crimes usually invite banishment from the village, and this is considered the heaviest form of punishment. Now, let us look at the marriage and divorce practice among the tribal groups in Manipur. Arranged marriages are encouraged among the tribal societies. Elopement, forced marriage, or marriage by kidnapping may not invite any serious punishment, but certain formalities are observed before the newlyweds can become a part of the community once again. Serious taboos exist regarding marriage in tribal societies. One among them is a marriage between closely related persons. It is considered as an incest, and marriage within the same clan is also not allowed. Polygamy and polyandry is also not recognized by the tribal societies in Manipur. Now, divorce is not encouraged, but they definitely do take place for certain reasons, such as adultery, or if a woman failed to bear a child, or for some other reasons. Usually, if the case for divorce is not justified, a fine or other forms of punishment is meted out to the person who is guilty. Now, let us talk about change and continuity in the tribal society in Manipur. In recent times, the tribal societies in Manipur have faced major changes in all walks of life. One of the first consequences of the effect of modern ways of life has been the customary laws and practice of the tribals. Whether such changes are for the good or for the worse is a matter of debate. On the positive side, the spread of modern education, access to better medical facilities, exposure to the outside world, better means of communication and information technologies, better economic facilities, social mobility, and other such many types have transformed the tribal society into a far more progressive one than it was before. Although skeptics look at these changes as gradually eroding the pristine traditional values and thereby de-tribal identity, there are many who see these as positive changes towards a far brighter future than what was during the time when the tribes were ruled by kings. Now, these modern exposure or the modern view of the tribal is changing because of such exposures to the society and the outside world. Let us first look at the customary laws and Christianity among the tribals. The tribals in Manipur are mostly Christians now. Before, they practiced ancestor worship. Christianity now has become one of the most potent forces that have contributed to the change that has taken place among the tribal customary laws and practice in Manipur. From the mundane approach of the tribal ancestral practices, Christianity brought in a spirituality that went beyond the everyday practice of the tribal communities. Ancestral worship or the worship of nature was replaced by divine worship, which literally prohibited the old practices by emphasizing that such worship was controlled by a higher supernatural authority. In other words, tree worship was discouraged with the assertion that trees were made by a god far more powerful than the tree itself. In a similar manner, a lot of customary practices were made redundant. Now, the coming of Christianity among the tribals of Manipur, however, has not altogether wiped out traditional institutions and certain customs relating to land use and ownership systems, marriages, inheritance, administration of justice, and certain gyanas. Even modern education, social and economic development, and other aspects of modern life have not completely led to the abandonment of these laws and practices. On the other hand, in recent times, there have been a resurgence to safeguard traditional practices. Folk songs and folklores are being recorded and printed, and they are making a lot of effort to save all these traditional aspects. Traditional attires, dances and festivals are being revived. In any important function in Manipur, tribal dances by fully attired dancers is an important part of the function. The diversity in these attires and dances further lent color and splendor, reflecting the kaleidoscopic nature of the tribals in Manipur. Now, let us also highlight the few unique features of Manipur. We have talked about what is Manipur, we have talked about the tribals in Manipur, tribals of Manipur. Now, let us see what Manipur is. In the previous class, we mentioned about Manipur being a playground of horse polo. Now, what is that all about? We mentioned definitely that horse polo is a particular sport, and along with polo field, hockey is also a popular sport. Now, Manipur has given birth to an indigenous form of classical dance known as Manipuri dance. Unlike other Indian dance forms, hand movements are used decoratively rather than as pantomime. Bells are not accentuated, and both men and women perform communally. The dance dramas interpreted by a narrator are a part of religious lives. Themes are generally taken from the life of Krishna, the pastoral god of Hinduism. Long and isolated art form, Manipuri was introduced to the rest of India by the poet Rabindranath Tagore in 1970. Now, after having talked about the tribals of Manipur, I would like to take you on a small journey into Manipur. Let us discuss the famous Loktak Lake. Loktak Lake is the largest freshwater lake in northeast India, which is in Manipur. It is also called the only floating lake in the world due to the floating heterogeneous mass of vegetation, soil, and organic matters at various stages of decomposition on it. It is located near Moirang in Manipur state, India. The etymology of Loktak is Lok, which is known as stream, and Tak, which is known as the end. The Kabul Lamjau National Park, which is the last natural refuge of the endangered Sangai or Manipur Brow antlered deer, is situated in the southeastern shores of this Loktak Lake and is the largest of all pumdis in the lake. Now, this ancient lake plays an important role in the economy of Manipur. It serves as a source of water for hydropower generation, irrigation and drinking water supply. The lake is also a source of livelihood for the rural fishermen who lives in the surrounding areas and on Pumdis, also known as Pumsongs. Now, let's talk about the dance form in Manipur, Thabal Chongwa or dancing by moonlight. This dance, in which the participants join hands in a circle, is a popular Manipuri folk dance associated with the festival of Yaoshang in India, which famously is known as Holi in other northern part of India. Now, to reiterate again, before we end, I would like to inform you that as per the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes List Orders of 1956, Part 10, Manipur Gazette Extraordinary, Part 2, Section 1, dated 7th January 2003, the Constitution of India recognizes a total of 33 tribal communities, both Chin, Zomi, Kuki and the Nagas in Manipur. Now, there are 33 tribal groups that we mentioned, and just to refresh your memory, because we have talked about a whole lot of things about Manipur, we even went to Loktak Lake, we even looked at the dance forms such as the Manipuri dance and the Thabal Chongwa. Now, let us reiterate about the 33 tribes that are existing in Manipur. Who are these tribes? They are Aimol, Anal, Angami, Chiru, Chotte, Gangte, Mar, Kabui, Kachanaga, Koram, Kaurau, Koirang, Kom, Kuki, Lamkang, Mau, Maram, Maring, Lusai, Monsang, Moyon, Paite, Purum, Paumai, Ralte, Sema, Simte, Sukte, Tangkhul, Tarau, Thado, Vaipe and Zo. Now, we also know that there are different other tribal groups in Manipur, but then the 33 tribes that we just mentioned is the one which is recognized as the tribes in Manipur. Now, in this session, we have briefly discussed about the state of Manipur in terms of continuity and change with reference to the tribal community. The tribal community in Manipur has come a long way in terms of education and other social upliftment. Definitely, every society has its ups and downs, but Manipur is also nonetheless, but then it has definitely come up in terms of education and other social upliftment. So the cultural affinity that exists between different tribal groups in Manipur has also led to the development of the state in a huge, massive manner. With this, we come to the end of the session on tribes in Manipur, and I do hope that you all had a good learning experience. Thank you.